Good evening or afternoon, everybody, whichever coast you happen to be on or somewhere in between. I'm Jackson DuBois, the Executive Director of the Guild. Thank you all for joining us for this info session or webinar about the community building projects and process involved there. Presentation is going to be primarily from Steve and some slides, and I will let my fellows Steve and Jim introduce themselves. Steve, you want to start?
Sure. Thanks, Jackson. I'm Steve Lawrence. I'm the Program Director for the Community Build Program. My role is mostly on the front end of projects, having conversations with people about ideas for projects, developing designs, writing estimates, and eventually contracts, and hiring project managers and instructors to lead the team. And helping with the recruiting for the volunteers as well, along with other members of the team here. So Jim, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Jim DeSantis. I'm a board member and the committee chair, and I work with Steve and Jackson pretty closely on a lot of these, from first call to getting the plan together. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
That's probably enough.
And I guess just a few matters of etiquette. If everybody notices in the bottom left-hand corner there's and if you click it, it mutes you. Try to keep yourself muted. If you have a question right in the middle of the Zoom console on the very bottom, there's a heart. And if you click on that heart at the bottom of the little pop-up there's a raise hand option. And we'll keep our eyes out for if anybody has any questions. You ready to go, Steve?
I am. I'll share my screen. We're going to go through some slides, and I'm going to talk about what we're looking at. I would encourage you to raise your hands and ask questions as we go. The general format idea for this is conversational style. If you have a question, don't be afraid to just call it out, and we'll stop and talk about that, and then carry on looking at the slides. So we're here really to just do a sort of overview presentation of the Community Build Program. We want to share what we think is a really great aspect of the Guild. The Community Build projects bring the Guild membership together to do what we like best, which is building timber frames. We get to share our skills and experience, learn new things, have fun, make new friends, travel to far and exotic places. So there's lots of good things that come with this program. And we want to share that with you so that you can understand a bit more about what it is, why you might want to get involved, and possibly even be the catalyst for getting a project like this going in your community. One of the great things about it is that it brings our community together with the communities of our partners, the places we go, and the people we meet when we go to build these timber frames. And so there's a mingling of different communities and a sharing of knowledge. The locals are generally keen to show us their town and bring us to interesting places and do fun things in the evenings when we're not working. And we of course like to show them what we do, which is making the frame, and we leave them with something beautiful. The picture on the screen now is the Pemberton downtown barn, Pemberton, British Columbia, up in the mountains near Whistler. We built this large open barn structure in 2014. There was, I think, 60 people working on it, and it took 2 weeks, starting with I think 2 or 3 truckloads of timber, and 2 weeks later the whole frame was cut and standing. And that's quite a good example of how when you bring enough people together with a common cause and some organization, you can do really amazing things. So the program the guild is all about connecting the communities of timber framing and promoting the craft, and we think that the community build program is one of the areas where we deliver on that mission pretty well, and so we keep doing it. Enriching community through craft is our mission statement, and that's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the process, so you can understand how these things happen, how they come together. It all starts with an idea. Somebody somewhere, and very often that somebody is a guild member, someone who already knows something about the guild and the programs that we run, and is enthusiastic about timber framing. They might identify a need or an opportunity within their community. It might be a pavilion for a local park or something like that, and that could be the seed of an idea. And so that person might make contact with the guild, end up talking to me or Jim or Jackson, and just saying, hey, I had this idea. They're trying to build a pavilion in my town, and I thought it'd be awesome if it was a timber frame. Would this be something the guild would be interested in doing? And that's how it gets started. I'm going to sort of pause on that point and see if anyone has any questions or comments to throw in on that particular point. Okay, no problem. So conversations. In conversation with me or Jim or Jackson, we can discuss that idea and figure out things like, is there a design? Where could a design come from? What's it going to cost? Who are the people involved? Is the group that we're going to partner with, who might be the owner or the beneficiary of this building, are they aligned with the guild and the objectives that we have in putting these things on? Not every organization is a good fit for us. People just want a timber frame at the lowest possible price, or as quick as possible, or they want to work with a certain contractor. And these things might make it difficult for the guild to be a partner in that instance. And we're going to talk a little bit about the alignment aspects that I just touched on there a little later on in this talk. And so we'll start to talk about concepts for design, how the building is going to be used, and all of the considerations that will go into designing the building. Once we've got some kind of concept together, even a very basic outline, we can start to discuss budget. We've established some scope, and we can start to talk about budget. Once we have that concept on the table, I will typically write a letter or proposal that says, on the basis of what we've already discussed and the concept drawings that we're looking at for this timber frame, this project is going to cost this much, and the guild will do these things. That might include doing drawings, it might include structural engineering or architectural work. It may or may not include supplying the timber, but it certainly includes cutting the timber frame and putting the timber frame together, which is the sort of core part of what we're going to do. So I'll write that cost estimate and a proposal, send a letter off, and we'll usually have some conversations and discussions with our partners around the scope of work or the cost for it, maybe make some adjustments. And when that's settled out, we'll write a contract, and we're then ready to start recruiting. And some of you may or may not have seen one of our sort of calls for participants. There's one live on the Guild website at the moment for a project called Flowing Lake, and it lays out how how many instructors, project manager, volunteers we think are needed, and for what period of time. There'll be times, dates, places, all of the information that you need, and a place where you can register. You can click on the button on the website, fill in your information, and you're then registered for the event. And part of that recruiting is for the instructors. We'll hire a team of instructors. It might be just 1 or 2. It might be 10, depending on the size of the project. And we'll hire them well ahead of the event, and they will spend a number of weeks in regular meetings, discussing the project, making plans, reviewing drawings, preparing materials, tool lists, that sort of thing. Meanwhile, the volunteer roster is filling up, and we're in communication with the volunteers and keeping them informed as to whether they have a place on the project or not. Sometimes we're oversubscribed and we can't take everybody who applies. And eventually the planning comes to an end, and we all show up and start making sawdust and build a nice timber frame. We're gonna look at a little more closely at each one of those or some of those bullet points that are on the screen there. But does anyone have any comments or questions before I move on? It's an easy audience.
Yeah, I might add, Steve, about maybe the concept phase there, that we can provide structural drawings. It really depends on the partner, but sometimes they provide all their own drawings, sometimes just the architectural. And so that's a negotiable part. Sometimes we have a separate design contract with a partner before we get to the build part of the plan, just to make sure we have a buildable plan to start with. And so that's negotiable depending on the partner and the project.
What's the difference between a set of structural plans and a set of architectural plans? And where does a set of timber plans land in those things?
The structural would be the timber frame drawings for structural analysis. And then some projects may require some architectural drawings as well, others not. It really depends.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the type of the building. An open air pavilion, you might need some architectural drawings for a permit. You might need a site plan, that kind of thing. But you might not need much else in terms of architectural drawings for a simple open-sided building. If it's a house, then of course it's very different. There's a lot more complexity, and architectural drawings would be required. The Guild doesn't often provide architectural drawings, but we can if we're asked to. And whenever we do design, we contract that out. We keep a list of designers, architects, and structural engineers who are Guild members and would like to be made aware of opportunities to do design work for the community build program. And so if we're talking with a partner who would like us to do some design work of some form, then we will typically issue an RFP, request for proposals, to the designers on our list and say, this project's coming up. This is the outline of the work that we need, design work. Here's the timeline. If you're interested, please respond with a simple proposal, and then we select from one of the respondents to the design RFP.
Yeah, if you want to get your name or your company's name on our list to get that sent out to, shoot email to Steve or myself, and we'll get you added. But we usually only send it out to those folks that are signed up on that list.
Yeah. That reminds me, I think we need to do another call for designers. We talked about it a while back, and I think it slipped off the list. Any other questions moving along? So alignment. These are the simple criteria that the Guild uses to assess our alignment with a partner organisation. The Guild is a not-for-profit. We're not a construction company. We're not doing this to be in the construction market. We're doing this to provide educational experiences to our membership, and also to have some fun doing what we love. So, you know, we're not trying to compete in the regular construction marketplace, and we've shaped up this set of criteria to try to outline what sort of position the guild takes as it approaches potential partners. So, not for public, not sorry. The community that we partner with should be a not-for-profit public government agency, that sort of thing. We don't want to be doing work for private individuals for their personal benefit. We want to support community projects for community benefit. And so that's one of the, you know, most important criteria that we use. And we're there to do education. The focus of the event is education, and we want to put these events together in a way that really maximizes the opportunities for that, being thoughtful about how we cut the frame. You can cut timber frames in lots of different ways using different methods and techniques, and we try to sort of focus each project on certain set of methods and techniques and highlight those as an educational component of the event. We don't compete on competitive bids. We want to be working with partners who want to work with the guild because of what we bring, rather than how lower cost we could cut a timber frame for. What we bring is a sort of gala educational event, which blends our communities together and generally a lot more fun than a regular construction contract, and more interesting as well. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we don't want to compete with our members. Many of our members run timber frame companies, and we would not get into a situation where we were taking work from one of our members. If we were in discussions with a potential partner and we learned that they were also talking to one of our member companies or individuals who had an interest in the work as well, we simply back away and say, sorry, we can't participate. You know, hopefully you'll reach an agreement with your local timber frame company. Questions or comments? Alignment criteria. Okay. Ideas. On the left there is a concept drawing for a building, and on the right is a drawing for another building. And both of those are examples of how projects came to us in terms of design content. A fairly basic concept and a fully developed design with an engineer's seal on it, and it can be anything in between. The one on the left there does have some dimensions. Those little numbers you see are feet and inches, and it's a plan. And you know, most of us can probably imagine a timber frame that would support that kind of roof, and develop that very basic concept into an outline of a timber frame. So you know, that could be enough for me to provide a letter with a budget cost estimate, maybe a range of pricing, saying, well, it's a very basic concept, so we can't give a firm price, but we can tell you roughly what it's going to cost. So ideas don't need to be well developed to be able to move forwards. So once we've done the design, budgeting, contracts and stuff, once we've got a commitment and a contract in place with our partners, we're then in a position to start recruiting. And this is an outline of the typical team that we might put together. If it's on the design end, it's a different group. I often input into designs at the early stage. There may be an architect involved, there may be a structural engineer. The structural engineer may be working for the guild. There's a current project which the guild is providing a design service, structural drawings, and we've hired a structural engineer and a designer who's doing the drawing work, and they're working directly with me and our partner's architect. They have an architect, and sometimes if the agreement is already in place, then the lead instructor and the project manager may have already been hired and may also be inputting into that design process, especially in the latter end of the design. The workshop drawings are going to be of some interest to the lead instructor and project manager, and so they and the instructor team typically review whatever drawings exist and may ask for some changes to better suit the way that they want to organise the work. And then when it comes to the construction, we've got the construction team there. Of the instructor's volunteer coordinator, who is usually a member of guild staff, and of course the volunteers. Mm-hmm. So just a few examples really of relatively recent community builds. This program's been running since 1989, and I think we've done over 100 projects. We've done projects in Central Europe, in the UK, South America, North America, covered bridges, barns, gazebos, all kinds of different things. The bottom right one there is obviously a heritage project. We did a small part of the work on that, not the whole part, but it was a good and interesting experience. We were able to run the community build program around the heritage preservation and timber frame repair skills that were being practiced on that project. So we came in for a part of a much larger project. Virginia, 2021. It was an oak frame for a farmer's market. Also landslide memorial, County of Snohomish. We've done a few projects with them over the last 5 years, and the one that we're recruiting for now is another one with the County of Snohomish, building an octagonal pavilion on one of their parks. Some of you may have seen that. It's on the Guild website now. This was what's the word? Ceremonial space. An indigenous group in Alabama reclaiming their traditional homelands and building themselves a village, and this was their ceremonial space, which the Guild helped them with. That was a pretty cool project. We do little stuff as well. This one was the year before last now, and just a small trail shelter. Did help the Forest Service with some repairs on it. The heritage one, Sunrise Mill, 2019. This is one that's on the cards for September this year in Corvallis, Oregon. It's a pavilion, Greenbelt Land Trust. We'll be launching recruiting on this fairly soon. It's not open yet, but it will be soon. Design's complete. The drawings are in for permit, so we'll be lining that up for September. That's another one that's in design at the moment. This is near Sault Ste. Marie in Ontario. And it's a musical centre organisation called Algoma Trad, Traditional Music and Crafts. doing a new performance hall project with them later this year as well. Picture of the Flowing Lake Pavilion, which has been built a few times now, I think. Is that right? Yeah, so this building was designed by Jim DeSantis, who's on the call here. He built it for two of his clients now, one of whom is also on this call. And we're recycling that design for the third time, and good design it is too. So that's happening in March, 16th of March, something like that. That's what it looks like when it's finished. It's a great picture. Love the hair. This is another one that's on the design board at the moment. This is in northern British Columbia. It's an indigenous food co-op, and the rendering shows it in a bit of a sort of residential style. It won't have shiny floors. It'll probably have concrete floors because it's going to be used mostly as a food processing centre. People from the local community can bring their produce there, whether it be fish or animals or vegetables, and they can do bulk processing as part of their Indigenous food co-op program. So we hope to be building that one later this year as well. And it's as you can see, it's a mix of round log and sawn timber, which our projects sometimes are. This one is Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's the Tillers International not-for-profit. They're a traditional agriculture and crafts group, and they want to build this new building. We were going to do this one last year, and their funding fell through, so it's on a floating schedule at the moment, waiting for the funding to come together. We also do workshops and classes. Picture on the left there is a group from the Girls Build at the conference in Oregon, Mount Hood. What was that, 2018? Something like that. Maybe 17.
18, yeah.
18, was it? Yeah. And so, we partner with other groups to promote craft skills and development in various other ways as well. And workshops and classes being a smaller, more focused type event. The community build program is generally, centered around making and standing up a timber frame somewhere, whereas the classes and workshops don't necessarily have a particular product outcome. Got the Heartwood School as well, of course, and the oops, sorry, wrong button. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so Heartwood School used to be run by Will and Michelle Beamer, and they sold it to the Guild in 2019. The Guild bought the Heartwood School and has continued to run it, and still do, and that's located in Halstead, New Hampshire. So if any of this is inspiring you with ideas of doing something like this, or being the catalyst or agent for starting this idea rolling in your community, then you can get in touch with us using these links. There's the Guild general email address, there's my email, and there's Jim's email, and you can email and we can have a conversation, kick ideas around, see if anything is making sense, and we're happy to do it. That's the end of the slideshow here. Let's open it up for questions and comments if anyone has anything hopefully there'll be some discussion about the stuff that I've been talking about.
I think one thing I could pop in with here after our last meeting last Wednesday surrounding the topic of the 40 for 40 endeavor that the guilds currently and guild membership are currently engaged in. The 40 for 40 works are intended to be smaller projects that don't have the structure of like paid instructors and things like that. No need for engineered foundations and things like this. So what we're talking about here is larger endeavors than that, just to be clear on that. The pipeline, I will say, is deep and long, and it's something that we're always working through. So if you think that there might be something in your community, don't hesitate to bring it to us. And we expect there to be. It typically takes a lot of back and forth on this, and often a lot of hand holding. Sometimes we're working with folks that are working with the guild because they're not necessarily in a position to hire the level of contractor that will just come in and make it all happen. What's really important to us, though, is that, and hence the qualification criteria, is that we're not just out there acting like a cheaper contractor. We want folks to really have the process to be part of the history of the structure.
I think Pat's got something to say.
Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't know if you were gonna talk more about budget, but I did wonder if there's sort of a minimum level of financial, involvement that makes sense to make a community project a guild project. I mean, seems like a lot of sort of leadership team members involved, and if we're doing a small project, does it make sense to have the guild be involved if it's a $25,000, if it's $1,000 deal? So that was my main question. Is there sort of a minimum number that you guys think makes sense to talk about for a big community build?
It's an interesting question. I couldn't say that there's a minimum number, but I couldn't say what it is, but I think there probably is one. I mean, the leadership team that we put together is generally sort of scaled to suit the size of the operation. Projects don't have to be big, but let's say that there does have to be, sufficient budget to pay for. If I would say if people can afford to build a timber frame, they can, probably afford to build it with the guild. It's not necessarily cheaper, but it's not necessarily more expensive either. I mean, the volunteer labor element is significant. Guild does still have costs. We pay the instructors, we pay the project manager, we pay designers and that sort of thing. And there's stuff going on in the guild office behind the scenes as well, running the registration and doing the communications and writing contracts and all of that. So we have a bunch of costs for putting these things on, and we try to recover those with our pricing. Scalable to the size of the project, I would think. And if it is a very small one, then perhaps it doesn't make sense, and that's something we would probably figure out fairly early on in the conversation.
Yeah, another option for small projects is running it as a workshop. And right now we're kind of running workshops through Heartwood. They've started a new program, a Heartwood on the Road, and they're doing, right now it's maybe one a year, maybe one or two a year. But it'd be great to expand that. But that would be a good option for a smaller project that you could have a group of people cutting in a short amount of time, and maybe give it a bit even more of an educational focus because you can.
Yeah. and of course, there's the 40 by 40 program that we're trying to promote this year. That's I would say perhaps a little more sort of grassroots level, and definitely suitable for small projects.
Yeah, one thing I think we missed on the staffing page was the local hero role, and that's where you can come in. If you bring a project into the guild that's in your community, you can be as involved in that project from start to finish as you want, or as little. You could bring us the project and we could take it from there. But our most successful projects have a local hero, somebody who's a guild member who works with the team or is part of the team, and helps that communication, gets the community excited and prepared for the onslaught of what they're going to get to experience. So if you have a project in mind, we actually have a job description for the local hero, but it's fairly vague. Like I said, you can do as little or as much as you want, but it's a great way to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that role I see as kind of a bridge between the two communities. They're a person who is known or knows both communities and can help to sort of bring the ideas together on both sides.
I see Tim's got a question in the chat here. What's the sweet spot budget-wise for a community build?
$100,000. That's not a serious answer.
That's a tough one.
I'm not sure that there is a sweet spot really. As I said, we try to scale everything to the size of the project. We have to be mindful that all of these partners that we're working with have a budget, and they're trying to work within that. So we just have to be economical and meet their needs and not more.
We try to keep them to 14 days or less, just due to the volunteer nature. We got people volunteering their time, and trying to get more than 2 weeks is a real challenge. So that's kind of, and usually if it's a really large project, we might still put it at 14 days and just add more people and more staffing to make sure we can accomplish it in a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
Hello, Steve. This is Tim Whitehouse.
Hello, Tim.
Well, how are you, sir? It's been a moment.
Good. How are you?
I'm still standing, that's for sure. So again, when I ask what's the sweet spot, it's not $10, and it's not $10 million. Is it 200,000? Obviously we were at Bamfield, which was a big project. I don't know what the total budget on that one was, but I'm just asking you, I've been at Russell Colbath, I've been to other places. So because I have some ideas about stuff to maybe do in our community, but like a timber frame structure for the farmer's market. We talking $250,000 build? I don't know. Again, no one knows what it looks like, but where does it make sense?
I mean, I would say, Tim, it's hard to be specific without talking about specific projects, but I would say mostly we fall between the sort of 25 to 200,000. I can't think of any instances where we've got any higher than that, and often it's pavilions are pretty popular choices, and those might be in the sort of 50,000 range, something like that. But there's so many questions in here. Who's supplying materials? Who's supplying design? Who's supplying timber or steel? Hard to generalize.
Part of the consideration as to go into these is also the feeding and care of upwards of up to 60 volunteers or whatever. The higher the cost, presumably also the more timber being tried attempting to compress that into that, max 14-day time period. For some communities, that's very easy. Say if we're working for a farm or somebody who is already used to feeding large groups of people. And for other communities, that's a very expensive burden. 3 meals a day for that number of people can be very expensive, depending on the community. So just to speak to Jim and Steve's point about the differing considerations that go into these projects.
I see a couple of hands up there. Chris Newman, I think you were first.
Yeah, I would just wanted to respond to Tim's question. Kind of the guild portion of a community build project is a small part of the overall project. Since we are just there for the frame, we don't take care of any sort of enclosure or roofing or electric if you're going to have that. An example from one that I was part of. In 2013 was the community pavilion in Vicksburg. I don't remember the guild involvement in that, of the price. It was under $100,000. I remember that, but the overall cost of that project, by the time it was said and done, was north of $400,000. By the time they did the standing seam metal roof and the decking and the electrical and the foundation and all the other landscaping around that. So it's the guild portion is a relatively small, or can be a relatively small portion of the overall project cost. We don't see the end or the final numbers for a lot of these projects.
And Tim Brennan, I think you might have been next. And then I think
hello,
Greg's got his hand up too.
Chris,
Hi Tim, long time.
Yeah, hi Steve. Chris just answered part of my question, but the other question I had was, say you have what you think is a prospective project. Can you talk a little bit about how to make the pitch to the people involved to get them interested in bothering with the guild?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one. Generally, what I do is send out an email with a whole bunch of information, and that will include things like issue 228 of Scantlings, which was a community retrospective. It's got like 40 or 50 different community build stories in it. Video links. There's some great videos on the Guild's YouTube channel. The Pemberton Barn build, Saratoga Springs, and things like our alignment criteria. So the short answer, I guess, is I can prepare a package of information that I can send to you by email that's then suitable to share with others. And there's pictures and video and words and all that stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and of course there's the Guild website and as I mentioned, the Guild YouTube channel and Facebook page and so on. But to get more specific with a particular group or individual, I'm here and available to help you with them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Craig, I think you were next.
Yes, 2 points about cost. One, maybe Tim's question about what would the whole thing cost, and you had answered it earlier. It's maybe a little more or less than you would hire a contractor or a timber framing company to do the same job. It's not a number answer, but that's how you can think.
Yeah, I mean, we don't tell people that we're going to be cheaper. In fact, we sometimes warn them that we might be more expensive, but we don't want them to come to us for a timber frame. We want them to come because they want what the Guild brings, which is community and fun and a gala event and celebration and community building. Right? I mean, that's the essence.
And then I'd like to give the opposite point of view to what Chris said about the Guild's cost being a small part of the total project. It could be a large part of the total project if the total project is really just the frame and maybe a little bit of foundation or a concrete slab and a roof. We've done plenty of open structures that don't have a lot of other cost.
Yeah.
They're simpler. We can do simple things too.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thanks, Greg. Rob.
Well, I for anybody that was on the call last week when we were doing the 40 for 40 discussion, I kind of want to ask the same question again today as we're all here and we're talking about these projects and we're talking about cost. How many people that are online in our chat right now have had the opportunity to participate at some point, in one of our community building projects, right?
Mm.
And it's pretty amazing, right? Like, I think personally for me, that's one of the selling points, Tim, is that, you and I've had the opportunity to do a couple of projects together over the years, and so many other people that are here tonight and that weren't able to make it. That's part of the draw for us, and that's part of the community, you know. When we go back or have the opportunity to go back and see the people that we've worked with in the past and got to know and get to work with, hopefully again in the future, that's a huge part of it for many of us, right? And I'm lucky enough to look at the screen right now and I get to see a whole pile of faces and I'm like, yeah, we've done a lot of different things together, and that's a pretty amazing feeling. And for a community, that's also something that they don't really put a price on. I'm not sounding like a credit card commercial, but it's really true. I ended up in Portland, Michigan a few weeks ago, and I went back and I just got to see the frame, and you get to like live those moments. And that was really cool. And start sending out messages to the friends, and they're like, "What are you doing there?" And I'm like, just decided a road trip and go and see something that we all did together, right? And so that's something that most communities really understand. When we go to them and get the opportunity to work in their community and to build something with them, they don't look at the dollar cost. They look at this is something that we all came together and did.
Thanks,
Here,
Rob.
here.
I wanted to throw something in about the volunteers, and that is that the volunteers can be ideally made up of both communities. We offer open recruitment to the guild community and our partner communities. We'll take as many registrations as people want to push that button. If there are more than we need, we will do some selection and we'll notify everybody whether they got us. We have to turn people away. We can flex numbers a little bit to be as inclusive as we can. We'd like as many people as possible to come and join the fund. So, we do have a bit of flexibility, but we do have to be mindful about maintaining a good mix of skills. We need somewhat right ratio of experience and less experienced people, so that there's plenty of sharing to go around. And generally would like the local community to be working alongside us where they can, and that can happen in ways other than carpentry as well. It takes a village to make one of these things happen, and there's all sorts of ways that people can contribute, whether it be food or just doing cleanup or providing refreshments. There's all sorts of sideline opportunities for community involvement. And when the community step up and bring that to the mix, it's great. It's so supportive of the people who are there volunteering their time to come and help this community. It becomes reciprocal, and that's really, really good.
Will, do you have your hand up, or you're just trying to block the light for me?
I got my hand up. I just wanted to say, with my crews, I find it's a really positive thing to send, the crews that I'm running with to this, because, you get stuck in a shop and you run the same thing over and over. Then you come to a place where there's 40, 50 people that are all doing the same thing, but from different parts of the country and different means and methods. And I find it extraordinarily educational, even for seasoned crew.
Here.
I see Robert's got his hand up.
Hi, guys. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to participate in 2 community projects for the Guild that involve round log work, and I see another one coming up on the table one of the comments that I'd like to make is that when round logs, organic logs are involved, and there's invariably going to be chainsaw work, and I'm not trying to push my agenda with Chainsaw Church, but what I found is that when a lot of this organic log work is incorporated into timber framing, there is a steep learning curve that is really restrictive in the execution of the project, and in terms of maybe putting together a budget and the scope of everything, maybe instead of having a training program going on concurrently with the beginning of the build, maybe do something just prior so people can become familiar. So there should be maybe a line budget item into the development of the project, so that people can feel they can participate in running a saw, making accurate cuts, doing some specialized work. I'm not trying to differentiate between a chainsaw and a chisel, but chainsaws can bite back pretty fast, and I have seen just in the two projects working with you guys that there just hasn't been the skill set required necessarily to get as engaged into it, and there's been a waiting list of people to take in Chainsaw Church. So if we had projects like I see Steve put towards up in Terrace or up in Kitwanga or Kitlak, I can't remember which community it is, but you know, maybe a thought in terms of developing budget and planning would be to have, you know, 4 days of Chainsaw Church, and then people could engage, and that could be instructors, it could be the volunteers, it could be community members. But the example in Bamfield, it was very difficult to get anybody engaged in actually executing the work required on the raw logs. A lot of practice, a lot of learning, which was valuable, but it was a bottleneck in terms of getting people really involved in that merge, that hybrid structure. And I think there's going to be more and more interest in combining, you know, raw log, organic logs with timber frame. I think it's exciting, and yeah, so that's just my 2 bits worth.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. You know, that listening to that puts me in mind. I guess what I want to say to that is, when I'm writing the estimates and proposals and so on, I'm not planning the whole project out in every detail. I'm trying to create a space into which the project can grow. And when I say that, I'm thinking about the team of instructors who are going to get hired. I think there are opportunities for each team of instructor to sort of shape the project in various ways. And as Robert has just suggested, having if there's a lot of chainsaw work involved, we've learned that those skills might not be as plentiful as we might like. Run a pre-build workshop per day or 2 or something like that. There's lots of ways that we can shape this, and you know, we could cut a frame and say this is going to be all about scribing. We're gonna hire some hot teach the rest of us how to do it, or whatever aspect of the frame and design that we want to emphasize and make a focus of training and education.
Chadwick.
Muted.
Hi there. Sorry, I couldn't find the little hand button there, but anyways, the International Log Builders Association would probably be happy to send a few members as well if there's a heavy round log component.
Yeah.
Should work with them a bit anyways, but that might take the edge off for some of those round log projects, just have 1 or 2 other skilled people there.
That's a good thought.
Don't think it would be hard to get a couple of people, but the pre-workshop does make good sense as well.
I've heard of that group.
Yeah, they're an excellent bunch. A little rough around the edges than the timber framers, but
no smell of gas and bar oil.
We have been discussing this very thing in committee. It's come up several times about like splitting it up, doing pre-workshops. Like Greenbelt, I think, is a great example of getting a smaller group to start ahead of the main group and really get into layout technique and learning some of that. It's just challenging often with the meals set up, and we got to get the right partner for that kind of a thing, but it's a great idea, and we are trying to develop that.
That Chadwick, your comment there just made me realise that I don't think we're promoting our projects with the ILBA or log builders, and that's perhaps something we should change. Certainly in the case of some where there's a lot of log work. Okay. What else we got? Anyone got any ideas? Projects they want to build? Have you already doing it or done it? I know I'm recognizing some faces here.
Connections in South America. Let's get out of the country. Let's do something fun.
There we go.
Yep. Sometimes folks come to you, and sometimes you gotta chase them down. There was a church on the historic registry in St. Louis that was taken on by a organization that focused around skateboarding and as well as skills sharing, and a couple of members of the guild just really liked the organization and kept sending information my way, and I just kind of kept pestering them and had a great conversation with them today. It's way too early to send it Steve's way. I need drawings and something that he can actually sink his teeth into, but it can be really the early conversations even are wonderful opportunities to connect with people, even if it doesn't result in a build. I'm often dealing with the really early on ones. And it's great just to hear people, share their goals with. So, Bill Sturm's there with his hand up.
Yeah, hey, I'm just going to share one thing from a meeting that we had earlier this week. Jackson, you were there. What is the name of that meeting? The grants committee?
The nonprofit committee.
Nonprofit. So we did kick around that we are going to try to go after money specifically for community projects also. So just to put that out there, anybody in this group that has ideas towards that, please feel free to contact Jackson, myself, or put that forward to the grants committee.
Anybody here from the Southwest? We'd love to hear from you. One of the things we've experienced over the last year or so is we've been a little heavy on the Northwest. Haven't seen anything in the Southwest for a while. Southeast, Central, these are areas where we haven't been much lately. So definitely interested in a better geographical spread. Travel for everybody is an issue, and if we can move the opportunities around, we think that's a good thing.
Trees are in short supply in the Southwest.
Maybe that's the problem. We can bring stuff with us.
Yeah, I'm trying to shake the tree in my neighborhood down there. Nothing coming to fruition yet, but I would love to see that. Mainly, even if it's in the winter, it's cold, but it's sunny. And I'm in Oregon, so I want to get out of the cold, wet, gray fog. So,
yeah,
you got telephone poles.
Yeah, ponderosa pine. We can do all kinds of log stuff. There's enough wood there. A lot of reclaim too.
I would say that if there's no more questions or comments, we can wrap this up and I'll carry on with the rest of our days. But I hope you all know very well and how to find us. Reach out with anything, with any ideas you may have.
And if you want to see what the recruiting looks like, get on the Guild events page. There's one live there now, and others will be going live. There's a few placeholders there for stuff that's coming up, just to give you a taste of it. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be hearing from some of you in the future. Don't be shy if you got an idea. Let's just have an informal conversation and see if it's got any legs.